Hi again. So welcome back to the Creative Corner. Today we are going to talk about the different surfaces that we have to work on out there. Everybody has their favorites, and maybe you already do have some favorites, but I'm going to share with you today my very favorite surfaces that I always work on. I do try different ones occasionally as they come about, but right now, today, these are the ones that I work on. These Centurion OP stands for Oil Prime Deluxe panels. You can buy these at the art stores. I will put links to everything in the notes here on this. But they are a linen canvas, and the OP stands for Oil Prime. I really love this surface. I've gotten used to working on it. It's probably something that you need to get used to. I've heard people say that's too slick for them, but it's just because they're used to like a rougher surface. But they're of a good quality. I paint on them all the time. And so I also buy the Centurion linen in a roll, and I will paint on that, stretch it, and paint on that as well. And I'll do the oil primed. They do not need to be gessoed or anything else or primed. They have a great prime on them. There are some others out there that are less expensive that you can buy at art stores, and they are fine for students, when you're learning and beginning. But I would suggest that if you are going to use those, that you consider gessoing them. The problem with the less expensive ones is the grade of gesso they've used, and they've maybe not used a lot. Your oil paints will just soak into there. The oil out of your paint just soaks into those panels, and it makes your paint kind of stiff and just doesn't flow very well. So what you would do is pick yourself up some gesso. This is Liquitex gesso, and you can get it in a smaller jar, bigger, however much you want. But I would use this, and I would prime those less expensive panels. And the way you want to prime those, you could do a whole bunch of them at the same time, is to lay them down, pour your gesso out. You can use sponge brushes, which you can get these at Home Depot or the art store. They're great because you can just throw them away later. They're cheap, and you don't have to be costly ruining any good brushes. You can use a bigger bristle brush if you want real expressive brushwork and leave like some texture. You can brush it on that way, or you can roll it on. And a lot of times when I would gesso panels, I used to roll them. I like what happens when you roll it. You get just a little bit of a tooth left on your panel that kind of simulates a canvas tooth. So I like to roll it when I would do it. So those are the different ways that you can do that. It is a water base. It's really easy to work with. And I think you'll find you'll have more success with your paintings. If you're using a less expensive canvas or panel, I think you'll have much more success if you will gesso them first. As far as toning them, I will, when you tone it, do I paint on white like this, or do I tone it? And it's a personal preference. I will do a video on toning and go into more depth about that at a later time. But it is no right or wrong way. It's a personal preference. Another surface I love to paint on are these Museum Series panel gesso boards. They are a beautiful product. I really enjoy working on them. They do take some getting used to. So if you want to try this product, I would buy a small one and do some practice before you buy something big and try and start anything too big. It's pretty slick, but it's really got a nice surface to it. This is oil primed. I like the oil prime. You can get them oil primed or acrylic primed. You can get them cradled. So that, the bigger ones have a cradle on them, which if you don't know what that is, that means it's kind of a boxed edge around it. And so those are great. Then the other thing I want to talk to you about is surfaces for practice. Because you do practice, right? I know you all practice. That's an important part of this journey, is to be putting in practice. Daily practice is great, but at least practice a few times a week. And this Arches cold press paper made for oil paints is great surface. It's got plenty to work on, and you're not investing in like a canvas or stretched canvas or a panel. And I have found with my students over the years, when they just pull out a sheet that in their mind says practice, they release themselves of a lot of pressure. And so they end up finding that they experiment a little bit more and they're not so uptight. So that would be my advice to you, is to pick up some of this paper and do some practicing. You know, practice rocks, practice trees, clouds, do an apple, different things. And don't spend hours and hours. Practice is what it is. Some quick studies. You'll grow a lot faster as an artist, and you'll find that your journey is going to be fun, because when you practice things, it's like a piano keyboard. If you practice them, when you go to play the song, it's going to sound a lot better. And so will your paintings. They'll be making music. All right, so that's it. Those are the surfaces that I wanted to talk about today. So I'll see you in another video on all these tips in the Creative Corner. The only other thing I have to say to you is to get painting.